This episode is dedicated to our patrons. Welcome to the family, David. Enjoy. Welcome back to Sci-Fi and Fantasy Read-Along. I am ATN.
I am Yule.
And I'm DM Phil.
Welcome back, guys.
I am Yule. I've got a tongue in my mouth. An extra tongue is what I mean.
It's not what's...
It's not a...
Yeah, I was going to say.
It's not a tongue.
It's not the thing that's actually in your mouth. It's at the end, too. You're frequently very...
No, that's what I meant then.
Like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah. I'm already out the door when I just forget to turn off the recording is what it is.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. All right. So, you know what I forgot to do?
Turn off your phone.
Good point. Thanks for reminding me.
All right. So in our last episode, we watched as the Foundation began expanding into the periphery, forming the second great foundation. No, empire. Yes? Empire.
Yes.
Are you guys ready to start talking about Section 5?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Part 5. Are you guys ready to talk about Part 5?
5.
What is it called?
The Merchant Princes.
Right, and we begin with an excerpt from the Encyclopedia Galactica. The topic is traders. As the Foundation spreads, so too the traders grow rich. Hober Mallow is the first of the merchant princes.
People will not remember the fact that he was lowly at one time, but they'll always remember that he was the first of the merchant princes.
Right. Would that kind of a statement fly? Would this kind of an entry fly on Wikipedia today? I don't see any citations. None.
That's at the back of the book.
There's not even any footnotes, man.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like a really great encyclopedia if it skips stuff.
Well, that's why, that's what happened when Salvor Hardin, he killed off all the encyclopedists, and then was like, you guys who were once secretaries and McDonald's employees, finish this book.
No.
Oh, but he didn't.
No, I know. He let those ding-dongs keep on working. Maybe it's a really good book, but I think the 116th edition, they might have gotten a new editor and he didn't know what he was doing or something. Maybe.
You never know. There's probably decades where it just didn't live up to normal, standards.
All right, Chapter 1, in which Hober Mallow is recruited to investigate the disappearance of 3 Foundation trading ships. So we are in the office of Jorain Sutt. He is the secretary to the mayor, and he is in conversation with Hober Mallow. He's trying to convince Hober Mallow to come on board.
Yeah, one of the ways he does that is by suggesting that, well, they're Smyrnian, and so are you.
Oh, yeah.
You might want to check this out, don't you think?
He jumped on it like a hot potato when he was like, they're Smyrnian. He's like, I'm your man.
Well, I don't know if you recall, but Tomaz Sutt was on the original Foundation Board of Trustees.
No, good catch. I know there's a couple more later on that are hilarious, but no, I didn't catch that. Good job.
Yes, so I wonder if this is a direct descendant and political
Obviously.
person.
Come on. Yes, of course it is.
And he's what, secretary to the mayor?
I had genuinely hoped that Jorain was a woman because he has manicured hands and he's a secretary. And I was like, for the time, it makes perfect sense, right? This person is the first woman. We're meeting the first woman finally. Nope, it's a dude.
Well, I mean, I can totally see it cast that way in the television program.
But can't imagine.
We are gonna see our first woman coming up soon.
You're such a spoiler, man. You're such a spoiler.
But that's no spoiler.
That's a spoiler, everybody.
Well, then don't put it in. I thought that was a good segue into getting this on. Trying my best to conversate.
I know you are. I love you. All right, so we've got this master trader who's in this office, and they're like, you're the best of your kind. You've been to this place we want to send you, and you're coming back. And you've come back before, so odds are you're going to do it again. So you're our guy. Be our man. Go and investigate. And they want to send him to Korell. And they refer to Korell as like the people of Korell or the Korellians. So let's go ahead and get it out of the way now.
Yeah,
Philip.
we have to. The Korellian Republic. I mean, I mean, as soon as they lit it, you didn't find out the planet was called Korell later. They just call it the Korellian Republic. And I'm like, well, obviously Corellia, and even describe it the same as the planet Corellia from Star Wars. It's like the exact same thing, a stinking rat hole or a putrid sewer.
Star Wars?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it was completely stolen.
Star Wars?
In Star Wars, the planet is Corellia, the birthplace of Han Solo, and you know,
I don't know any of this.
It's where the Millennium Falcon came from. It's where the Imperial shipyards are, and it's been described as a putrid sewer.
I think it's fair to assume that George Lucas borrowed this and just plopped it down in his world, right?
I don't know. It sounds like a virtual cut and paste.
It's a wink and a nod. If you ever have time on YouTube, you should check out my buddy Rick Worley's channel. He does a look at the prequel Star Wars movies and is trying to convince us that because of how much art is used or borrowed from.
It's like how much pure homage can you cram into a single movie?
Well, it's
or trilogy
because of
movies.
that we don't realize that he's actually making a movie that's deeper, an arty movie.
Oh.
And, exactly. But once again, it seems like George Lucas is just borrowing from someone that's come before him.
Well, the planet Trantor was the same thing. You know, a planet-wide city in the center of an empire. Sound familiar?
No. What are you getting at?
The center of an empire.
Oh, well, into the Star Wars universe, it's Coruscant, a planet-wide city. In the Foundation series, it's Trantor, the center of the galactic empire. It's the same in both universes.
Okay. I'm not a huge Star Wars guy, so.
Yeah, I didn't know as much either.
Oh, forgive me for taking liberties with that. Everybody knows this. Okay, I'm sorry.
You mean forgive George Lucas for taking liberties?
You said it, not me.
All right. I'll say it again too.
There's the problem. You know, you can pass yourself off as this really wonderful poet if you're just stealing things from people that nobody knows. But eventually, that's going to catch up with you.
I have to go on the assumption that he knew other people were going to know what he was doing, and he wants them to know. It's like the wink, wink, nod, nod of all of his homages, right?
When is it an homage? When is it an Easter egg? When is it just totally lifting something or appropriating? This is what real appropriation is.
When Philip talked about it in Gardens of the Moon, the Raven. He didn't line for line, shot for shot, take the Raven and cram it into his story. He took the idea of the Raven and he modeled it to fit his story, right? But this is not a podcast about Star Wars, so let's agree that maybe he's a little heavy-handed and move on. Yes,
that is a neat thing about reading this when you see that. Oh, this feels very much like something last episode, Han Solo. You know?
Yeah.
I don't know. It gives us a little bit more meat, and it actually starts stripping away the meals that I've read beforehand.
Why are you hungry all of a sudden?
I'm hungry. It's always around dinner time we're doing this.
I know, it's true. All right, so let's get back on track. Those 3 ships that have been destroyed recently, 2 of them were Smyrnian. One of them wasn't. They're all Foundation trader ships. They've all been destroyed, and Sut assures us that only nuclear power can destroy nuclear power. Therefore, we have an enemy out there in the Korellian system that has nukes. So this is a Selden crisis, and you're our man. We need you, Master Trader.
Yeah, he says that every mayor, when time's coming up, it talks about a Selden prophecy.
Yeah, re-election. That is actually hilarious and true. You know, it's like our politicians nowadays.
Oh, they wish they had a Harry Selden crisis.
They just create the crises themselves so that they can look really good when they, trying to win them.
Oh yeah, it's just like fear mongering and disaster mongering. Call it what you want. Like the whole world's collapsing. Look at all these problems. Oh, only I can help you solve this.
That sounds so much like some of the conversations we're about to have in this section. All right, so he essentially volunteers for the job. This Hober Mallow fellow, the master trader Hober Mallow, who we are assured by the Galactic Encyclopedia Galactica is going to become the first in a long line of merchant princes. He's their man. So he takes off, and there's a very brief conversation between the secretary, Sut, and the mayor, who's sitting in his office back there. He opens the door, and he's like, what did you think about that? He's like, well, he could be an idiot. I'm not really sure. I think they're talking about treachery, actually, right?
I was a little confused on that, but
when you walked out of that first chapter, what did you think they were talking about?
I didn't know if they were setting him up or putting faith in him to do something right. I don't know.
It felt to me like they were setting him up.
Yeah.
They agree that this is the man for the job, but he might just be like fooling his way in.
Okay.
Or or maybe like you said, Phil, that he might not want to do exactly what they have in mind.
But it sounds to me like they're also setting him up for failure or being removed. It was not clear.
It wasn't, but you definitely, like, to me, it was a hook, right? It was one of those things where, like, ooh, what's going on here? There's some treachery, possibly some.
A good actor.
You got to define the word actor too, right?
Well, they're not using it like pawn, right?
I don't know. I assume not. I assume that they were talking about him as though he might have been lying to them.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Pretending at something, and they're like, he could be a good actor.
He had a high charisma role. That's what it was.
Sut sold him to us. It wasn't Mallow. Mallow was just kind of straightforward with this guy, which I did like, by the way.
Well, okay, it wasn't just straightforward. Mallow had a clear disdain and antipathy towards the Foundation. It was leaking out of him. Like when he was like, your sly little hints of treason aren't going to panic me into licking Foundation spittle. I mean,
yes, right.
He benefits from working for the Foundation, but it's clear that he doesn't toe the Foundation line.
They told him to go to Korell and keep his eyes open. Nothing more is required of him, right? Just report back. Come back and report. That's it.
That's what they want him to do. Be a traitor.
Do your job. Chapter 2, in which Jorain Sut convinces the primate of the church to run for mayor.
I don't think the proper pronunciation is primate.
What is it?
I think it's primate or primate.
I don't know, but I'm listening to an old-ass book on tape, and they were saying primate also.
Okay.
I think getting hung up on pronunciation is a mistake.
But okay.
I thought you've done that.
But, ultimately, however you want to pronounce it, this guy is effectively a bishop or an archbishop. That's what it translates to.
He's also the foreign secretary. So Jorain Sut is in his bachelor pad, which is very, very nice. And he's got with him an elder gentleman who is the foreign secretary to the mayor. And he's also the primate of the church. His name is Publio Manlio.
I thought that said pubic Manlio.
Holy cow!
I'm not sure really how to pronounce his name, but it's a funny name.
Publius.
I think you got it. It's fine. And
Publius.
Publio Manlio.
Publius.
Purveyor of the holy food, master of the temples, and so forth.
Yes, his name actually goes on and on and on and on and on. It's very long. He's a very important man.
Well, yeah, he was trying to get him to run for mayor, and this is where so when we were talking about are they setting him up, this is where they actually mention him kind of trying to set him up.
They refer to Mallow as a dupable person.
No, they said the opposite. He said he's a capable man. What is he if not an easy prey for dupery? Oh, they did say that. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So they're conspiring. That's what it seems like. These two guys are conspiring. It looks like they're trying to consolidate power into a single individual. They said, not since the time of Salvor Hardin has the mayor and the head of the church been the same person. And it seems like that's what Sut wants. He wants that to be combined. He wants this guy who's already really important in the church to run for mayor because the current mayor is allergic to, what did he say? He was allergic to responsibility.
Yeah, exactly. It's funny you bring up Salvor Hardin because the description of Mallow in the Encyclopedia Galactica was almost the exact same as the description of Hardin, which is like, oh, this amazing person, first in a long line.
Yep, exactly. Sut is very convinced that there's a Selden crisis coming, and he wants to convince old
Manlio,
Publius Manlio, that there is a Selden crisis coming. He's like, nah, don't be silly. So he tries to convince him. He uses 3 pieces of information to convince him. Please tell me what those are, because the last one's stupid.
I thought it was 4, but yes. But he emphasizes a key word. He says, we know that Harry Seldon worked out the historical probabilities of the future. We know that someday we're to rebuild the Galactic Empire. We know that it will take 1,000 years or thereabouts. And we know that at an interval we'll face certain definite crises. So I got a couple things here. One, nothing there convinces me that there's a crisis coming. And 2, when he says we know that Harry Seldon does it, Harry Seldon told you what he wanted you to know.
I got to go with you on that one, Phil. You're not supposed to know what's going on to make whatever needs to happen.
It's fine, because he actually doesn't.
Well, that's good, but if you are trying to understand what's going to happen, knowing is not what Harry Seldon was all about, right?
No, it's half the battle.
That's right. You'll alter your plans if you know. And that's what made Hardin so amazing, is that he knew it was going to happen, and he refrained from letting it influence his judgment.
Right, he didn't act.
But this guy's a ding-dong. He doesn't know anything.
He's something else. I'm not sure what he is. He seems like an ambitious politician who's trying to get himself
closer to power.
Yeah, kind of the opposite of Hardin, right? It seems like he's aiming for power. He wants power. He wants to use it to his advantage.
Yes, I think that's right. And he says the mayor himself, and you mentioned this earlier, he's energetic only in his evading responsibility. So it's clear that Sut is kind of like the power, and the mayor is actually the puppet.
Well, he tells old Publio that
Manlio.
They can tell that it's a crisis because their opponents have nuclear power, and that there's a major domestic political crisis brewing, and that has to do with the traders and being, out of control. And he says that it's been 70 years. It's time. It's time. It must be one because it's been time. So that did not convince me whatsoever. I thought it was kind of a weak argument, personally.
It was pretty weak. We're in agreement.
So Manlio's role is to deal with the traders before the external threat is upon them. That's his job, essentially. And the traders, they need to be controlled, obviously, because they're gaining in power, and the religion has no bounds or hold over them. That's their actual concern. Well, do you guys have anything else for Chapter 2?
I'm good.
I think a lot of these are going to be actually kind of short.
Real quick. Yeah, quick.
Just little bites.
Just a little bit.
All right, Chapter 3, in which Hober Mallow convinces the trader union rep to forsake politics and take up trading once again.
Yeah, he's like, for like a few years now, he hasn't been on a ship.
3 years.
3 years, yeah.
3 years it's been since this guy's been on a ship. His name is James Twir, or Heim Twir. I'm going to go with James. He's at Mallow's second apartment, so Mallow is a wealthy character, I'm guessing. And Twir's claim to fame is that right now he's trying to get trader representation in the council. That's his thing, right?
Right, and he wants Mallow to kind of go for some position, Secretary of Education.
Yeah, he's identified Mallow as kind of a special person, and he wants him to get into politics.
So don't you think it's kind of interesting how last chapter and this chapter you had somebody trying to influence somebody else to go into power?
Honestly, I thought they were the same person for a minute. For kind of a few minutes. I was like, hey, wait a minute. Who's this Publius guy?
Well, if anything, there may be a convergence there. I think it's a stretch. But either way, it sounded like a similar story imprinted on 2 separate people, 2 politicians trying to convince another 2 guys to go for power at this time.
Well, Mallow tells Twir that I'm not your man. I've got a job. It's a super secret mission. Let me tell you all about it. But I'm heading out into the wilds. I'm going to go be a trader. Why don't you come with me, bro? Come on.
He's got all this stuff set up for himself, and he's like, why don't you just drop everything and come along?
Yeah, no kidding.
Why would you do that?
Yeah, throw away your career.
But he's going to do it anyway.
Come on. Don't you want to be with me?
Well, when you put it that way.
He also is told that there's a Seldon crisis because Hober Mallow, he picked it up from Sut, and now he's talking to this guy like he knows a thing or two.
And that guy Twir, who's older than our boy, he doesn't know anything about
that was crazy.
He couldn't remember.
I didn't
Mallow's
believe
like,
him.
what, didn't they teach you anything in school?
I didn't believe him for a minute.
And he's like, oh, yeah, that's right, Seldon. I know what you're talking about. I just couldn't remember.
That was just so weird. He's like, oh, like, you have lived here your whole life. You are a politician in the Foundation, and you can't remember the foundation of the Foundation?
You don't remember who Selden is or what a Selden crisis is. That threw me for alarm bells big time. I was like, this guy's an imposter from another realm.
Is he the traitor?
He's got to be. I mean, how do you not know? I mean, that's a good point. But anyways, Mallow is just like, oh, well, no big deal. Let's go together. Come on. Let's hang out.
Oh, now I'm going to be looking at this guy.
It seemed weird when he admitted, and I don't know why, but I had this psychic flash, and we're going to follow it up later. I had his psychic flash.
Excuse me. Sometimes when Philip has psychic flashes, about 50% of the time, in fact,
it's psychotic.
He's correct.
Oh, well.
Oh, really?
No, this is just an overlay, but I had this psychic flash that as soon as they're like, oh, you should come along with me, I'm like, that is just like Mutiny on the Bounty, and we know how that ended.
I didn't read that.
Yeah, me either. What's the meat of it?
The meat of it is I see a correlation later on in this book.
Okay, so you're putting the bug in our ear, as it were,
yes.
for something that you want us to remember later.
Yes.
Okay. Hey, can one of you go to page 177 down towards the bottom and read the quote where Hober Mallow reframes Selden's position to us? Because I thought that was super, super fascinating to see it in somebody else's perspective.
The future course of the Foundation was plotted according to the science of the psychohistory, then highly developed, and conditions arranged so as to bring about a series of crises that will force us most rapidly along the route to future empire.
All along, I don't know, I didn't really think of it that way. I thought of it more like he had predicted these crises were going to arise, and this, like, if we plan it properly or we tweak here and there, they can get over these. But it sounds more like, from this guy's perspective, that they were created in order to forge a machine that would become the Second Empire, right?
Huh, interesting. I always thought the crises were something to be averted rather than something that seems they are running towards these days.
I mean, this is years later, and it's not Selden, right? We're not hearing this from Selden.
Well, this is the problem when other people are relaying the message that somebody else has laid out, whether it's today or many, many years in the future.
Well, this guy obviously gets it because he's had a mediocre training, whereas the guy that should know is kind of clueless. Like you said, that was kind of funny. But we talked about it before where...
What mediocre training are you referring to?
I'm talking about Mallow, who is only nominally trained in the Foundation. He's not a priest. Right?
Okay.
Right? Didn't he get kicked out? Or was that...
No, that was the last chapter.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Okay, Ponietz, another
section.
traitor. Yep.
Yeah, it was Ponietz.
I don't know. Point is, Mallow gets it that the conditions have been arranged to bring about a series of crises at a certain time, in a certain way, to whatever, connect dots, creating history.
Do you guys have anything else for chapter 3?
Oh, nothing. Just gave another little Harden quote, and I think you mentioned earlier, it's like, to succeed, planning alone is insufficient. One must improvise as well.
Yeah, improvise.
And so Mallow kind of impressed me a little bit because he knows he doesn't know what he's going into, so he's just planning to improvise. He's like, if you don't know anything, don't fret about it. Just go in and wing it.
Oh my God. Can I tell you guys that I watched a wrestling match last night?
Can I stop
And they were talking about how you have to improvise. It was just amazing how, I had just read this chapter and I forgot. And then they're talking about improvising in the match because they couldn't get something, done. And I'm like, God, it really sounds like something familiar. And now here we are, and I'm like, oh yeah, this totally reminds me of this wrestling match.
Life lessons.
It was a great wrestling match
from wrestling.
From Asimov.
All right, chapter 4. Sometime later, aboard ship at the Korellian spaceport. They've been there for a week, I believe, waiting.
A lot of these traders have to hang out for a while. It seems like the guy in Ponyet in the last chapter had to hang out 4 or 5 days, just hovering, right?
Well, it was a week of him greasing the wheels of bureaucracy till he could talk to the Grandmaster.
Yes.
Oh, it was like that. But this guy's hanging out up top before they even let him planet side, right?
No, he's landed.
He has.
Yeah, he's landed, and there are ships in orbit that are just hovering overhead, essentially.
They don't mention any indication whatsoever that they've even been allowed to leave the ship. So they've just been sitting on ships, sitting on the ground for a week while these guard ships sit there, hover over them, waiting, I guess, waiting on them to flinch or do something they shouldn't be doing.
Do something. Yeah, there's some rigmarole. Mallow explains to Twir that he can't move first. He's got to wait for them to move because they're in the weaker position, and that's precisely when we start getting a little bit of history about Corellia and how the Commodore is very, very strict with traders and stricter still with the missionaries from the Foundation. The missionaries from the Foundation are not allowed at all. They're forbidden on the planet.
They hate them here.
As soon as we find that out, the crew has let a missionary onto the ship from the surface.
Yeah, this is almost funny. I'm sorry, it is funny. Let's go on.
It was a little bit amusing, but Mallow is not amused. The watch sergeant came on the Visi screen and was like, "Sir, we found this stray puppy outside and we let it in." And he's like, "How dare you? Go to battle stations." And then, he stomps off and he reprimands them all. Like, you are going to be locked in your quarters and you're going to be demoted for a little while. And damn it.
He'd given the crew express orders. No one will leave and no one will come in.
Yep. And they first thing they did was get bored after a week of card playing and then let some stray on board. Well, he is a Foundation missionary, and they're like, "He's one of us, Captain. Gotta let him on."
And as angry as he was, I don't think anything he did to them was really.
Those punishments were not that bad.
No,
I mean they were
confined
punishments,
to quarters for a week. I mean, that would
you're basically confined to already.
It's like a week off of work, dude. Come on,
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You can play video games for a whole week.
Sure, you can.
That happened to a guy that I worked with, right? So we had real strict driving rules, right? Like if you wrecked one of the fleet, they reviewed your whole, drug test, piss test, whatever. They reviewed what had happened, and then strict punishments come down. And everybody knows that this is the way. We're in Colorado. He goes to Denver. He makes a bad turn, and he gets T-boned, wrecks one of the trucks. Then our boss gives him the week off paid.
Wow.
And I'm like,
Hey.
I want to wreck a truck. We lived in the same apartment, right? He was at home playing video games, getting paid the same as me for a week.
I sense a little bitterness.
All right, so we've got this missionary on board, right? And Mallow wants to question him. And the guy seems like he's been hit on the head a few too many times, maybe kicked. But, as he's starting to ask this guy questions, all he's getting is like, "Oh, children of the faith, protect me." And then here comes a mob outside. Like thousands of people with pitchforks and torches show up.
And Mallow sees through all this BS. He's like, they're in way on the outskirts, and there's spontaneously several thousand people that want to lynch this priest. He's not buying it.
No, but he is willing to give them the priest. They ask for the priest, and he's like, "Okay, take him outside." But he's got a gun in his hand when he says it because old Twir doesn't want to let it happen.
Well, Twir has been interfering with his command, with
Mallow, come on, man, have a heart. We can't send that guy to his death.
I mean, it's just this is where it gets to Mutiny on the Bounty right here, where the commander of the ship has to have absolute control and absolute following of discipline, or things go south. And
yeah, it's like a tyranny, right?
That's right. And that's why he berated his crew before for if I can't have absolute discipline when things are calm, I'm not going to be able to have absolute discipline when things go awry.
Yeah, in the face of death. Well, he pulls out a gun and he says, "Take him outside." And Twir's looks like he's about to jump on him. I mean, he's really, really aggravated. And the priest is got his hands up in the air. He's like, "No, how could you do this?" And there's this flash of light that happens. And then he's like, "Twir, come with me." Takes him into the private, and then he tells him, "You ever do that again, I'm gonna kill you."
Yeah, pretty much.
You're now to call me sir, and all this other stuff.
He does say that, behind closed doors, but he still lets Twir know that he are the same person as they were, off ship.
Shake on it, buddy.
The sir stuff is not behind doors. It's just in front of the crew and everything. But he is, as angry as he is with the crew, he is obviously even more angry with this guy.
Well, he's definitely interfering. He said something to the effect that he's never had a problem with discipline or morale on his ship until now. and he blames Twir.
Right.
Like, because of the way Twir is talking to him, it's like opening the door for other people on the crew to be like, yeah, what that guy said.
Right.
And he's like, not having that. It's my ship.
Yeah, so you can't do that anymore.
Who's the master trader?
Hober Mallow.
Unfortunately, you guys have not read or watched Mutiny on the Bounty, but this build up in these scenes and the command, and it's all very similar.
So who do they take on board on the Bounty?
Yeah, who did they rescue?
For the Mutiny on the Bounty, Commander took one of his friends on this trip that was going to take 2 or 3 years. And then things started going south when his friend took liberties with being chummy with the captain, right? And in fact, his own best friend mutinied against him at the end. This was a real story. I think it's 1787?
Yes, I know nothing about this.
All right.
I mean, I know. I think that explanation should have been the first part that you explained.
Well.
Because that makes a lot more sense now, but like I feel like it's kind of late.
Oh, okay.
Too late.
Well,
it might be too late.
Well, you don't like me to give premonitions. My catch-all there is that the Mutiny on the Bounty movie came out in 1935, and it's not unreasonable that
He George Lucas'd it.
that Asimov
saw it
Yep.
and was influenced by it.
It's always the shoulders of giants, right? This missionary, they gave him to the mob, and they're like, get out, be gone. You weren't legally allowed to be here. You knew that you weren't legally allowed to be here. We know it. We have to give you up because it's the law, and we're in an undefensible position. Immediately after they did that, he's explaining to Twir in private, 1, don't do that again, and 2, didn't you notice that stank? Like, where did the mob come from? Where did this missionary come from? That doesn't make any sense. The closest city's 100 miles away. So it stank like a trap. And old Twir is not happy. He's like, no, couldn't be. And then immediately after that, an invitation arrives. Come to my palace. It's the Commodore. They've passed a test.
It's all about our boy being smarter than the rest, right?
Once again, yes.
Yeah.
All right, so chapter 5, in which salesmen be sellin'.
Salesman be selling.
I think last time you referred to this kind of a scene as a walk and talk.
I might have, yeah.
Yeah.
This is also reminiscent of Ponyet and his gold making machine scene.
A lot of convincing somebody important that the salesman has something that they want, and they're going to demo it for them and convince them. And of course they
love it.
They have to have it,
but they have to rationalize why they're going to be able to have it also. That's what I really like. How they have to be extra convinced on why they're going to be able to accept this. In a society, it's like, no, we don't want your people anywhere near this. And our boy has to say, well, they're not going to have any religious ties to it at all.
Right.
You can have this. And I really enjoy the Commodore. What do I need with riches? Yeah.
He's already beyond
offered.
Wealth, right?
I have all this love and adoration by my people.
He's like,
being rich and having adoration is like something that would work really well. Also,
but let's describe this Commodore. I mean, he's like so humble and so selfless. They call him Asper, the well-beloved.
Yeah, and his house is a fortress, and he's got armed guards bristling all around him. Yeah.
Some people would say that his house is a palace.
Right.
Like the people would say it was a palace.
Right.
But to Hober, it's a fortress. All that stuff. There's guards here.
It doesn't really sound like his people love him terribly much. But Philip wanted to describe this guy, and it's not just humble. This guy has like a rat's nest of like thin hair that's long. He has a dirty shirt on, and he has the constant sniffles.
Oh, he said snuffles. I took that to mean he did snuff, and he. But yes.
That's what you get when you do too much snuff. You get the snuffles.
So it's just tobacco running out of your nose constantly.
It might actually be.
Yes,
yeah.
But literally,
Ew.
this guy just he doesn't reek of nobility and royalty. Let me say that.
He also doesn't reek of being well beloved.
As is a common theme, Mallow is brilliantly manipulating this guy verbally, and I love it, but the story's getting old.
All right, so Mallow is trying to convince this guy that they should trade together. He's like, I've got stuff to sell, man. Why don't you want this stuff? And the Commodore doesn't want any religion. They have seen what happened to Azkan, and they're not into it. They're like, no. My people will not stand that, right? He's like, well, missionaries are annoying to me as well. Well, he's, oh, okay. So how do we make money off of this? You remember when we did the play last time?
Yeah. Think we could do it again?
It's because of this back and forth. It's literally just like a one-liner followed by a one-liner, followed by a one-liner, followed by a one-liner. It's an argument. That's all. Two opposing sides that aren't really opposing, and they come to fruition together. They merge.
Well, ultimately, it's just, Mallow has to convince this guy to do trading with him, and
he does.
The funny thing was the Commodore is so opposed to religion. It's like one of the convincing arguments by Mallow was like a religious quote. So, but what do I want with riches? The true wealth is the love of one's people. I have that. And Mallow counters like, you can have both, for it is possible to gather gold with one hand and love with the other. And that comes either directly from Matthew 6:3, which is, let not the right hand know what the left hand is doing, or from Martin Luther. And I think it actually comes from Martin Luther when he was...
First one didn't seem right.
Martin Luther? Or Matthew?
No, go on. What's that Matthew thing didn't seem to apply, but go on.
Well, because as we go through this story, essentially Mallow is undermining the power of the church and doesn't give a crap about it because... by the church, the foundation, because he doesn't put a lot of value in it. He said his religion is money. And Martin Luther condemned the church also, and because he wanted to actually bring the Bible to the masses. And so Martin Luther was German, and so he translated the Bible from Latin into German, and he got excommunicated for it because the church, it was reducing the power of the church, because he gave the power of the Bible directly to the German people.
Okay, so you're making a comparison between Martin Luther because he brought the Bible to the Germans, and the comparison would be that Hober Mallow is bringing free trade to the people.
Exactly, and circumventing
the foundation.
And Martin Luther said, what the right hand giveth, the left hand taketh away, which is almost exactly what he's saying right here. And we also know that Asimov was a student of the Bible?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. A student and critical writer of the writings of the Bible.
I don't know. What does it mean to have one hand giveth and the other hand taketh away? Because it sounds to me like what he's talking about is that this guy can, one, have the love of his people. At the same time, he can also make a ton of money by selling them crap. That's what that sounds like.
Well, you can take advantage of them for sure.
Well,
you can have the love. Well, it's almost, I don't know, man. It might just be cake and eating it too.
Sure. Well, he's very greedy, this Commodore. His name, by the way, is Asper Argo. He's extremely greedy, so it's not hard to convince him. It's just like it wasn't hard to convince the people on Askan that, they wanted this gold. The Grand Master was just greedy. So is this dude. He's like, how do we make money? Well, how do I make money?
This is a little fishy. He's like, can you get a woman? I'm like, what?
There's a woman in this book?
Right?
No, it's in this one. It's just that they changed scenes in this chapter.
It's the top of page 191. He's like, can you get a woman?
Oh, okay, very good. Yeah.
So it's going to be luxury goods. That's the thing. That's the thing that he's going to sell to his people and make a ton of money. But Hober needs a woman to demonstrate. And I'm like, all in. Go for it. Let's go there, right?
Is he some lecherous creep that, he's like, I don't know what this guy's planning, but all he did is ask for a woman. And
I think they keep the women inside.
Oh.
Is all.
Oh, I didn't see that. I heard him being a lecherous creep, and he wanted to keep that in private. I don't know.
Maybe he is. I don't know. But we meet our first woman. She's one of the Comdora's girls.
Did you notice they didn't ever give her a name?
She doesn't need a name. She's essentially a servant.
Yeah, servant girl, something like that.
This is where the girl shows up, and he's like, bring a mirror. And the mirror shows up, the girl shows up, he puts the belt on her, he puts the necklace on her, and it's like she's got the aurora around her, and she's just enthralled. It's
like radiating lights and flame and beauty and all this weird stuff. And I was like, wow, that's like the Hunger Games when Katniss is riding on that chariot and there's like flames and fire wings and...
Oh, man, I'm really sorry. I haven't seen it.
He's got girls.
It's unbelievable that I have to be the pop culture guy.
Why is that unbelievable? You grew up a pop culture guy.
No. But he's current pop culture. That's what it's all about.
If you want to talk about pop culture of the 70s and 80s, I'm there.
And apparently the 2010s.
Yeah.
I mean, have you ever stopped watching movies? I would say no.
That's true, but
You still watch TV shows that you like? I mean, you know more about pop culture than me. That's a damn fact.
okay, that's what I'm getting at. I would say that compared to the average American, I don't watch TV and I don't watch that many movies. So that's what I'm getting at. Like,
How was WandaVision?
fantastic.
How was The Mandalorian?
Even more fantastic.
So how are you different from the average individual
Hey,
alive today?
that's Star Wars, all right? All right. I am a devoted...
and Marvel movies. You don't. It's nothing to be ashamed of. Okay, you like pop culture.
Oh, I'm not ashamed. I'm just a Star Wars literary expert.
And Marvel movie expert.
Enthusiast, for sure.
Enthusiast. Yeah. Okay. All right. So this feminine frippery. Let's talk about the feminine frippery. Let's talk about the woman. Okay. He's got a woman there, the Comdora's girl, and she's wearing this slip of a dress or whatever, and he puts her in front of a mirror, and he puts that belt on her, and he shows her how to turn it on.
It feels sort of futuristic, and maybe this might be something... What is this, a diamond? Who cares?
Oh, yeah, right?
Oh, I'm sorry. Who cares about a diamond also? If you're into things like this and looking good, I'm sure this was something that was... It's like Judy Jetson. That's what it was. Before Judy Jetson, this was Judy Jetson.
Futuristic jewelry. Well,
Yeah.
the Commodore thinks it's just female frippery. And Hober's like, no, trust me. Women will pay massive 10,000 credits for this. Women will pay.
And not only that, the battery goes out after 6 months.
Either Asimov doesn't get it or Mallow doesn't get it, but if this is my impression, I am just as putting it out there. So if you're going to like high-end balls and high-end galas and you've got women capable of affording dresses for 10,000 credits, they don't reuse them. The batteries don't matter. They're going to buy it once, use it once, and then give it or throw it away, and then they buy another one. That's how I think that's how I think it really goes.
Yeah, they can only be photographed in the same piece of high fashion one time.
No woman of standing would wear the same dress twice.
So Hober's got all sorts of junk that he can sell to this guy. And we're reminded that the Commodore doesn't want anything to do with religion. And Hober's like, no sweat, bro. No religion here.
Promise.
Yeah. Then he gets invited to the banquet. All right, chapter 6, in which Commodore and Commodora vie for power.
Oh, this relationship is not so wonderful.
He is much older than her.
And he's living off his daddy's or her daddy's empire, basically.
I'm not real sure how that works, but it seems to me like she comes from a very powerful family, and he is just kind of like a ding-dong, and they know it. She knows
Somehow
it.
he got in on it, though, and
He's the head of that
threatening
planet.
her life.
He threatens to cut off her tongue because that's the most familiar part of her that he knows. And then like the tip of her nose and maybe her ears and send her home.
That's true, but she's antagonizing him for a long time, and he's just taking it patiently.
This is more like Alice to the Moon is what you're telling me.
Yes. But this woman is so full of like bile and bitterness and vitriol and just...
She doesn't like him at all.
No, and it's just like she cannot say a single thing that is not trying to get under his skin, and he puts up with it. For a while.
He does. But he kept her from the conversation with the trader, and that's what made her mad. She wanted to be there, and she was disallowed. And he's like, don't worry, honey. You can be there tonight. Meanwhile, put this belt and necklace on. Here, this is how you turn it on. Now be a good girl and be quiet. She is placated by the belt and the necklace and the demonstration from last section.
He's all, take this and keep still. And then it says... She kept still.
Oh, she loves it, right? She must love it.
But the thing is like in good writing, maybe I should say this. A lot of times, still is also referenced when you want to say something about death. Maybe this is something that is the case.
I think that might be a little bit too deep for the
Maybe
subject
he had just threatened her life also.
Yeah, but she threatened his life, and I think she has more power behind her threat than he does.
Yeah.
I mean, her daddy is important. We know that. That's like something that's made very clear in this chapter, is that her daddy is important, and this man, this little Commodore, no, not so much. All right, so they're having the dinner tonight. Everybody's been invited. and she's going to be there so she can wear her beautiful dress and her jewelry, and she can talk to the trader to her heart's content, not plotting against her father. Mallow and Twir update us on the secret plan.
Yeah, so the super secret plan is that they are looking to find out if this civilization, these people are, what are they, the Korellians? Mm-hmm. Or if they actually wield nuclear power.
Yes, because those 3 ships that went missing, they were in this system when they did so.
So there have been a few moments in this part that we've been reading where they've talked about this planet and what its nuclear capabilities are. But they've just kind of sprinkled it throughout, if I'm not mistaken.
And they're just guessing as well.
Yeah, they are just guessing. And it's because of those ships that got blown up. They're like, well, maybe that was the extent of their power. We have to know if they have more power. We didn't know that this guy was going to be the one that was necessarily checking everything out. I mean, he did not go as quote-unquote a spy. He went as a traitor. But I guess... And maybe that was what they were saying, although, maybe he's a good actor. Maybe I am not going as a spy. I agree with you 100%. And at the same time, he's winking at them. Yes, I am a spy. And at the same time, he's winking at them. No, I'm not a spy. How good of an actor is this guy who's going to be able to pull this off?
I'm not sure.
And maybe that's what all this is. That was all that it was about also. But here we are. And
everybody that isn't a hero in this story is a complete ding-dong. So how good of an actor does he have to be? Not very good. I think that's the answer I was looking for.
I don't think that's totally true. When people are single-minded, I mean, how to attack them in such a way so that you may be able to get, you don't have to kill them off, like we've seen before. You can get what you want and still have them around. And not only that, sometimes you can threaten them, or you can make them feel like they were the ones pulling it off when it was actually you. I think a single-minded attack is bad against the proper, villain, enemy, whatever. Opponent, but it isn't always the worst thing possible. And just these guys are elevated in their thinking, whereas their opponents are not, is really what I think. We are seeing...
I mean, potato. I call them ding-dongs.
Well, I know. Well, someone has to be the better, has to be the better fighter.
But wouldn't you like to see a good fight instead of like a complete creaming? A 1-round knockout. Terrible fight.
I don't think that's what this is necessarily about. So I was thinking about it. If this was a television program, or if this novel was traditionally written and it wasn't short stories pieced together to make a whole, right?
Yeah.
Then maybe, like, let's say you're, one of those fancy writers that really gets into your characters and you have a whole crew and all this other stuff. Well, you had a week, 6 weeks or whatever, where this crew would just be hanging around, while they're waiting to be released upon this world. And that would be like the filler stuff that gives you really involved in the characters, and their motivations and why they are. But that's not what this book is about,
No, it's definitely not.
Yeah, they are ding-dongs, or they're fools, or they're outmatched, but they aren't necessarily, fully weak. They just have certain strengths that can be exploited by the better thinker. And I think that's what we're seeing. Obviously, the person we're following is going to be the person who's the better thinker in this book, at least. And that's what I think we've seen. Philip said it. We've seen this one. Let's go on.
Wow, Yule, that was a very good description.
You speak Yule?
I'm getting there.
Maybe, I had to work it out in my head a little bit also, but it just, I don't think these guys are necessarily like the worst. This guy's pretty bad. And ultimately they all end up being pretty bad. At least that one dude offed himself.
Yeah, that's true enough. All right, so They're, again, waiting for a car to pick them up to take them to the steel foundry for the demonstration.
That would have been a whole episode right
Yep,
there.
exactly. They're giving the demonstration, and they're concerned that the ease with which they're getting into the foundry suggests that these guys aren't hiding anything. And then the car shows up, and they hop in with all of their gadgets.
Don't they suggest that there might be a trap also?
I think the alternative was either they're hiding their nuclear power for a variety of reasons, some of which have been given to us already and some of them were given again here, or they don't have it. So the demonstration, bears strange fruit. You guys need a refresher?
Yeah, I did.
Yes, I think we can sum it up pretty well. So it is actually a pretty straightforward demonstration of how all of these nucleic...
It's steel working tools,
yes,
essentially.
How to cut tools, how to cut steel, polish steel.
Oh, that's right.
Straighten steel, how to anneal...
Put it back together.
Yes, anneal them together. Yep, and you're like, look how quickie this is, and how safe it is, and anybody could use this, and he gives us live demonstration, which I think is a little over. I mean, like, you didn't have to do that. You didn't have to go to a steel foundry to do that demonstration. So I thought that was kind of weird.
He didn't have to, but he wanted to see a steel foundry.
Oh, I know.
Right?
I know. Yeah.
And there's going to be a lot of steel for him to play with when he's there. And he does. And they get real excited about it.
I mean,
they're just absolutely thrilled with all of his toys.
Yeah. I mean, he can cut through this stuff like he has a lightsaber.
Yeah. No, that's... Oh.
If I was trying to show that something was like really technologically advanced,
Cutting steel.
would cutting steel be the
Welding.
thing I was like thinking about in
Maybe in
what was this, the
1942.
40s?
Maybe in 1943. Yeah.
Really?
Remember he worked at a shipyard. Remember that?
Yeah, I know.
Right.
But I mean, the cutting of steel and putting the two pieces back together and
That's
that
not
stuff.
possible. I mean,
Yeah.
what he's describing isn't actually even possible today. Like when he takes the two cuts and he puts them together.
I mean,
We cannot do that.
we've got arc welders that can do it really fast, but not with handheld tools.
He didn't even he just cut the ends and then put the ends together and they sealed together.
Yes, it was definitely beyond our technology to do it that quickly.
He's like, it's not perfect, but you wouldn't do this by hand.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to suggest that it wasn't good. It just doesn't seem so.
No,
wow.
I would definitely focus on like computer technology or something like that, but it wasn't available to him. They didn't have computers.
Yeah, but the shipyards thing was a direct connection. I didn't think about that, but think about how much cutting and polishing and moving and welding he actually had to see in the shipyards.
Yep. Right.
Do you know how long that would take? Do you even know?
Build a ship, man.
This just happens just like that.
Well,
You don't understand.
the actual bomb dropping. What was the bomb drop?
The bomb drop is when the guards, they got real excited just like everybody else, and they wanted to help move steel around so they could see more of this demonstration, and one of them got close enough to Mallow that he could see the gun.
The strange weapons that he had talked about earlier.
Yep.
Federation guns, right? Or Foundation guns. I mean,
Nuclear guns.
nuclear
Empire.
Foundation.
Yul, I'm gonna put a word in your mouth, and I'm gonna let you say it. It's Empire.
Oh, Empire. I mean,
Well,
So let's do it in the triple bang bang, right? The first thing he notices is that they're nuclear. Then he notices the logo, the symbol,
yeah.
yep.
Yeah,
and he
does.
puts two and two together. What's the symbol?
Spaceship in the sun.
Right.
Oh yeah, I got that picture. Let me
Yeah.
look that
Show
up.
Philip.
That'll be a
Oh, that's
sign.
cool. I mean, I remember because I have my spreadsheet, but
Oh, well, big deal.
no, I'm just
Big
saying,
deal.
if you have a picture, that's cool.
He does. He's got a good one, and you should look at it because the ship is stylized and it looks just like the Federation's.
Oh, I can't show it that way. Damn
poop.
it. It's all right.
Oh yeah, I think I'd seen it. I think I saw it before.
It looks like the Federation logo. Well, anyway,
Boom.
Oh, sure enough, yeah.
so that's the logo. It's the ship in front of the sun. And this is, I mean, he knows, I don't know how he knows, but he knows that this is the symbol of the Empire.
Yeah, the Empire. I was saying Foundation. Mm-hmm. I can't remember.
Well,
anything
he's a
right.
smart guy.
It's all.
He's a smart guy. He's a trader nucleics, and I think there have been holdovers of Empire technology that a lot of planets are using. I don't think it's unrealistic that he would know and recognize these things. Oh, the symbol.
And he's widely traveled. He's seen a lot of stuff. He's seen the ruins. There's ruins on this planet, in fact, where the Empire has pulled out and left behind, just abandoned buildings.
Right, but he did not interpret as leftover abandoned Empire technology.
No, he interpreted it as current Empire technology.
Yep. He said, wow. He said, a century and a half passed, but there was still an empire somewhere deeper in the galaxy, and it was emerging again out into the periphery. And he smiled.
Yeah, he smiled. So what this tells me is that the Commodora is the daughter of a high functionary in the Empire.
Oh, I didn't think about that. Sure.
I mean, that's what that tells me, because she comes from a powerful family, and they have ties. Her family has ties with the Empire.
That is not unrealistic. Yeah, that makes sense. And then they would invest in good guard and weaponry to protect her. I get it. Yeah, that's believable.
Well, do you remember the things she said about her husband? Not a woman has been more mistreated than her, married off to some ding-dong on a backwater planet. She could have done better in the alleyways of her home world.
Right? You got me, man.
Remember that? So that tells me that this woman has expectations, that she's from a powerful family, and she's slumming it right now.
That may be true, but when I read that, I thought she was just insulting her husband.
Oh, she was.
No, I know she was.
Oh, no, she was. She was like, I could have gotten a leper out of the alley and done better. Right.
Oh my God. I didn't get it. I thought she was just being a bee,
No wonder he wants to cut her tongue out.
So if you remember it all the way back in part one, when they were
with Selden himself.
When they're talking about, he said the experts will argue about when the Empire actually collapsed, and it could be 150 years from now, it could be 300 years from now. And I forgot about that for a while, because they kind of, on the periphery, they had kind of already portrayed the historical picture that the Empire was already gone. Like, it didn't exist anymore. It was history.
We've been getting the reminders, though. Every time I think it's pretty much every part, we have gotten a reminder that the Empire is still there. They're just shrinking, but very, very powerful, but shrinking.
Yes, they're dying, and they are obviously still around. And this is evidence that they are still around. And still, on some level, they're not a small player.
And we've just encountered them again for the first time in 170 years or something?
150.
Chapter 9, in which cliffhanger.
Damn you, ATM.
What? Were you going cliffhanger?
No, not at all. I'm saying it is a cliffhanger. We decided we're going to read 9 of these chapters.
We divided this into 2 equal parts. Chapter 9 is 1 page long. It ends in a cliffhanger. I didn't know that when I divided it. I just divided it between 18 chapters.
Well, I thought it worked really well, but then I found out that you actually read the rest of the book.
I did.
And I feel the fool for not having done that.
This does not take away anything from this chapter. It's still a cliffhanger, and though I know how the book ends now, it doesn't mean a thing. Doesn't mean a thing.
Right. Okay. So our boy is leaving for what, 2 weeks?
It's complicated. It doesn't matter. Yeah. It really doesn't matter. It's he's leaving detailed instructions with a senior lieutenant, a guy named Draught, and he's giving him a bunch of, you're the acting captain. Here's an if and then set of instructions. Meet me here 2 months time. Pick me up, and if not, do this. And if so, do that. That's all it is.
That's right. He gives him, what was it, a cylinder or some sort of information?
I think it was another one of those personal cylinders or the personal spheres.
Those microfilms.
And it was very important that they don't transmit it out there. So he doesn't want someone sniping it or something like that.
Right.
Well, I got to wonder how big these crews are. Because you remember in the last chapter, traders were like one-man shows who went from planet to planet, just...
But, okay, I mean, I understand what you're saying, but I wonder if that's actually true. I wonder if it's not just this massive crew in a hulking ship. and Asimov just chooses to portray one person on the ship.
There obviously are different types of ships, but no, because like in the last chapter, he said, when they were describing the ship, it's like you had the bridge, you had his refresher,
that's
personal
true.
stations, and every other space was like packed. And here he's got at least 2 lieutenants, because he mentioned a lieutenant. I can't remember his name.
Well, it's been 70 years, man. Maybe the traders have gotten a lot of money, because you remember how the ships were described last time? It was like they were just patched together with duct tape and glue.
I mean, they were pioneers.
Right. And now, 70 years later, this dude has a remember his apartment? He's super wealthy.
Mm-hmm. And
so maybe they can afford better stuff now.
That's kind of where I was looking at it. Is you had a precious few who were so good at their jobs, they are all
master trader.
Exactly. And this one on the path to becoming the first of the merchant princes.
Merchant princess?
Princess.
Princes. Got it.
You're thinking of a cruise liner, I think.
The Merchant Princess?
The Merchant Princess.
Would you get on that boat?
The princess makes me think yes. The merchant makes me think no.
I know. It's like, do I have to work? Because no, I'm not getting on the Merchant Princess if I have to lift a finger.
So anyway, Mallow was going on this secret mission, and we don't have any idea what it is. So an excellent cliffhanger.
He took off in a lifeboat, so he just a personal escape vessel essentially. He took off in that
a skiff.
Yeah, just left. Boo. And so we have no idea what's coming, other than he was smiling at the end of the last chapter. So he seems to be, his mind is at work, and now he's enacting a plan. So yes, cliffhanger. Now that we have finished those 9 chapters, we got 9 more to go to finish off part 5, excuse me. How are you guys feeling?
Good. I mean, honestly, I enjoyed the book, but seeing the same story over and over again, even for me, who's an enthusiast, it gets a little annoying when it's the same script, different people.
It's almost like a formula.
Yeah, exactly. I like it. It's good. Even getting past the redundant theme, I like how the setting is evolving is what I'm really getting tickled about.
Give me an example.
Well, how the empire collapsed and barbarism and rampant, I guess, ignorance immediately took place because people have no memories, and then the Foundation swooped in. And then the Foundation stepped in and took it.
It's like Mad Max.
Yeah, right. It's like, I don't know how you fall that far.
They're out of gas. Kill them all.
Start wearing weird costumes, right?
Yeah.
Who run Bartertown?
Master Blaster run Bartertown.
Like, seriously, it's like they fell that far within a very short period of time, which I think is kind of hokey, but yeah.
Why are you shaking your head, Yule?
I'm laughing.
Can I not say
guys.
Master Blaster West Bartertown? Master Blaster.
It's funny. I've only ever seen that one time in my life.
I saw that movie for my birthday one year. I don't know what year it was, but I saw it for my birthday. Great movie. I love Master Blaster. I love Tina Turner. I love Mad Max. I loved it all, man. It was great. That was a mind-blowing movie when I was a kid.
Yep. Big Killer, the guy that flies. I can't remember his name. Yeah, all of it.
I don't remember his name either. I just remember he had really strange teeth. They were like really long.
Yeah.
Cool though. And the boomerang that chops off the fingers in the movie before that, and like, ooh.
Yeah, that was the Road Warrior.
Love Road Warrior. The first one, Mad Max. Have you seen that?
I did. I saw both versions. Yeah. I saw the Australian version, which I couldn't understand it because it was in
Australian.
It was Australian. It was just the accent was so thick I couldn't understand anything. So I actually had to get the English dub version.
Oh my goodness!
I never knew that existed.
I didn't either.
I want to talk about this book for a second.
Sorry, you'll go on.
Sorry.
Go on.
No, it's okay. No. Seriously, going on for what Phil was saying, the same story over and over again. It doesn't really lend itself to being a novel. If this was like over the course of time,
it reminds you then that it's a book of short stories.
Yeah.
Linked, however, they are.
They are totally linked. Yep. But you could pick one up at one time, and then it almost feels like if you're reading like Conan, the pulp novels or the short stories or
Episodic.
novellas of the day, the episodic. That's
Yeah.
exactly what this is. It's just like, this is the adventure set in the Foundation universe, and these are your fun little people that you're going to be following, at least as far as this book was concerned.
Right.
If I knew that there was going to be maybe more a cohesive character and story going through a longer thought out book, but of course this would be like 700 pages then, or maybe more.
I choose to think of the trilogy. Let's get it straight. I know it's not a trilogy. I know that there are more than 3 books now, but I also know that Asimov wrote 2 of the prequels like in the 80s, like long after these 3 had been a trilogy for 4 decades or something. So I choose to think of it as a trilogy, as one long book essentially. But it is episodic. It's obvious that they're strung together. Does it bother you that? Okay, so when you have a like, how would you solve the problem if you had to cover the period of time of 1,000 years? How would you cover it with characters? Like, how would you decide which characters to use and how to pass the 1,000 years?
Well, I mean, you're each one of these chapters could have been a novel in itself, and I mean, maybe it didn't have maybe more of a novella. But when you're using like the same story, I mean, it's just mixing and matching, but basically, one person outsmarting a whole bunch of other people. The only thing that is big in these stories is the fact that the Foundation and Harry Seldon's name and the way it progresses, throughout the universe, and these little inklings of how it affects everything. That's what the main story is really about. These other people are just the vessels to get us through the moments that are most important in the
Crises.
galactic.
They're crises.
Yeah, these crises. Whether it's a crisis that's averted, or one that was predicted, or one that we're going to find out afterwards, I guess. I don't know.
I choose to believe that the last part was a crisis that just went under the radar because it went under the radar.
We didn't have Harry Seldon back, and we talked about that. There was no Harry Seldon in that.
Not a crisis, but the last one was just a linchpin moment in history.
I mean, okay. I think that's the semantic distinction.
Well, I think it was like the beginning of the traders, right? And
Yeah.
now we're following the trader of all traders. And
First merchant princess.
the first prince.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Wait, no, the first merchant prince had the first merchant princess cruise.
That's how he got all his money, man.
That's right.
It's definitely where he
That's
got
how
money.
it happened.
All right, thank you for that, Philip. What do you think about the 1,000 years? Like, how would you choose to cover 1,000 years?
I think it would be more. One of the problems I have is there is continuity, but the actual parts are so short, it's hard to get invested. Like mentally,
It is, yeah, that's true.
they're too short to really get vested into what's going on at the time, what the buildup is, and everything else. Unfortunately, it leaves me unsatisfied because of the lack of detail, the lack of explanations, and the quickness by which you have a problem and solve the problem.
How did you feel about the mention of Seth Cermak redistributing the land?
Oh, yeah. We didn't even
and
mention that.
No, we didn't. And then the actionist. We don't have to mention every little detail. That's not something that people are going to miss, right?
Well, it's not, but it is a tiny little piece of connection to a previous story. That's it.
It is a connection to a previous story. There was another one also where they talked about the actionist party was ripe for being killed off.
Yeah, yep.
And, Seth Cermak from the actionist party. And apparently he's like Robin Hood, but he had obviously attained power. So there are things like that I really do appreciate.
So I do too, but if you, and that is something that you have to connect one story to another. But I think if you did a better job, if Asimov had done a better job putting those setups into one story that he would use to connect it in the next story, I think it would be a lot more gratifying. It would make more sense, and it would seem less like one enclosed story, and then another enclosed story, and then another enclosed story.
What we need to see is all the descendants of all these really awesome negotiators all get in the room together.
And that's it. They talk about, first in a long line of, and then you never hear from them again. And then, first in a long line of, and then, we're still in that story. But I think that's where this falls short, is that there's not that continuity, and we don't have that satisfaction, and we don't have that segue from one part to the next.
Would that be fan service?
Maybe. I don't think he would have thought about it that way, right?
The main problem is that we're seeing a lot of the same type of stories.
Oh no, I agree completely.
That is the main thing that we can all agree on.
Yes.
Like the characters, certain ones have characteristics.
I liked Hardin,
right,
but he wasn't well described.
They're not all very. Actually, some of the villains are actually, as villains should be, are better described. Yeah.
They're absolutely hilarious. But
if they have a name that reminds you of a penis, all the better.
I didn't mention that once this time. You should be proud of me.
Well, yeah, so when I was like, it's like that guy that offed himself. I'm like, what, the wiener? But it was wiener.
That's the
It
one.
was weenus, not wiener.
It's weenus.
I've been working on that episode. And I just got to the part where Philip won't say his name.
I have a hard time saying it.
Weenus.
Weenus?
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 Gwyneth.
Doesn't matter. I love you, buddy. You're funny, though. You're very funny.
So, yeah, I don't know. I think if he was had more practice, I think if Asimov had more practice at being a writer, and he had turned these into, if each section was twice as long, and there was a focus on elaboration of the story and the characters, it would be a lot more gratifying.
I think he was probably working with some pretty strict guidelines when it came to submitting stories, word count, and the like. He was young at the time, and so this is him cutting his teeth. And he did. And I'm pretty sure that, some of his later books are significantly better than, I don't know if I should say better. I don't like to think of this as not a great book, but I don't think it's a great book, right?
It's not your typical novel.
That's true.
The stories all make fine stories, and I could see them in all sorts of, in a longer format, writing-wise. I could see them in a comic book. I could see them in TV show, which we're going to see soon.
I'm looking forward to it.
I would assume that each chapter might be a season.
Ooh.
Maybe.
Wow. I'm guessing an episode.
Oh, just an episode?
I'm guessing an episode or two. Yeah.
No, I would.
10 episodes. They did 10 episodes. We have 5 sections. I bet you they do 2 a bang.
So two of each?
Maybe 1, 4. I don't know. That's not 10.
Math. Eagle.
I don't know, man. Some of those sections, some of the parts. Part 1, pretty short. Part 2, pretty short. This one, 80 pages. It's twice as long as all the rest.
Yeah, but I could see part 1 being elaborated on. Look, whole first season of Harry Seldon doing his Harry Seldon stuff. Maybe we start off with him, and then we see a young man graduating from his math school.
I think it's going to be one episode.
Probably.
That's going to be one episode, and I can totally see that being I can totally see that happening. That makes sense to me from a storytelling perspective. I don't think that's not a bad move, right?
So most people just are not going to stick around on that program unless they decide to at some time lengthen the story at any time. They could maybe do that.
They have plenty of opportunity to lengthen the story. I think that I wonder though, who's going to be watching this show, right? Is it going to be people that read Asimov in the past and love it and are coming to it because of that, or is it going to be people that are I've heard of that, I will watch this and see if I might want to read the book?
I think the people it's going to track are the people that watch the trailer and they're sci-fi nerds and they're like, wow, that looks awesome.
It does.
You have to have Amazon Prime.
Apple TV.
Or is it Apple TV?
Apple TV.
It's Apple
Well,
TV.
darn, that rules me out.
Damn. Or, the way people do it.
7-day free trial? What?
Oh,
I'm going to binge it all.
yeah, but you got to wait about 2 years to do that 7-day free trial so they get this huge accumulation of stuff, and then you just binge watch.
I think 10 episodes, 7 days. I mean, that's.
Oh, no, he
reasonable to
wants
me.
other programs, too.
There is another science fiction show that they're putting out this year or something like that. I don't remember what it's called, but space suits on the moon and stuff. I'll watch that too. At least one episode. If they want to make sci-fi, man, I'm completely on board. I want to watch sci-fi television shows. Like Moon was a great movie. I want more. Give me more sci-fi, please. But for heaven forbid you tell me a bad story. Please tell me the better stories as well.
Yeah, pick the good ones first. You can get to the bad ones later.
Maybe they couldn't get the rights to the good ones.
That might be.
Yeah. All right. Do you guys have anything about this book or this series that you want to talk about? Are we done?
I'm good. I'm looking forward to finishing it.
I am too. We have one episode to go. We'll get on to reading. You do the same. Thank you for joining us, everyone. Have a good night.
Good night.
Good night.